This is so weird, Anthony. I'm in a hotel.
You're in a hotel. How many hotels have you been in the last 8 weeks?
I wish I could count. Let me count, and we'll be right back.
I'm Anthony. Okay. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
$479 hotels I've been in the last 8
months. 179. You know what? I haven't traveled in, I think this is my third week of not traveling.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. Anyway, that's Anthony Melchiori. I'm Glenn Hausman. Thank you so much for being here to watch another episode of No Vacancy Live. This episode is pre-recorded because of our scheduling issues. As you can see, I'm in a hotel. Anthony, I'm excited. I'm heading up to Boston, not only to meet with my good friends over at Pizzeria Uno's, but to participate in a panel at Worldwide ERC, which is exciting because it's all about, housing and the short-term rental business and all of that kind of stuff. So a little bit of a wrinkle on what we do here every day.
Yeah, well, have fun, and hopefully they'll recruit you over there.
Yeah, dude, I'm super excited. I want to thank the folks over at C2 for having me on that panel because I'm on the panel. I don't have to host. I don't have to do any of that stuff, Anthony. I can just answer questions. How cool is that going to be?
Wow. Do you know how to answer questions and not ask questions?
Do I know how to answer questions?
What's your middle name?
What's my middle name? See, I don't know how to answer questions. I'm playing that little game there.
Yeah. Okay.
But we don't have time for that because we've got a great guest today. I'm very excited to have on the show. Geez, I'm not sure what took us so long to get him over here, but I'm talking about Vijay Dandapani. Of course, he's the president and CEO at the Hotel Association of New York City, our hometown. Vijay, great to see you here on No Vacancy.
Great to see you, Glenn and Anthony. Terrific. Wonderful. Look forward to the show.
All right. So I want to warn everyone ahead of time. I just know what's going to happen here. Anthony is a hardcore New York hotel guy. VJ's been at this for a lot of years. So I'm probably going to wind up sitting here on the sidelines, just not getting into too much conversation. But I'm prepared for that today, Anthony, because I know.
I'm gonna let you start. Go ahead.
You sure? All right. So Vijay, I'll start off with an easy one for you. Okay. Tell us a little bit about the association, why it's so important to the livelihood of hospitality in New York City, both for the workers involved in hospitality and the owners and all the other stakeholders.
Great. So firstly, I got to clarify a little point. I'm a little longer in the tooth than Anthony. I've got 32 years in the New York City hotel industry, part of that as owner. Operator. So what does the association do? I mean, we advocate for the health of the industry, and nothing could exemplify that better than what we did during COVID in the previous de Blasio administration when they reached out to us in panic, needless to say, saying we needed emergency help for people to be moved out of shelters into hotels. So it's going to be for a few weeks. It ended up being from May of 2020 till December 31st of 2021, and a $700 million contract. So, but besides that, we do a bunch of things. We do stuff, as Anthony probably knows, the operational things that are of importance to ensure that the hotels have the best possible GOP, NOI, as well as obviously things for employees like the Big Apple Stars Award, which Anthony graciously emceed for us 4 or 5 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, when I was asked to do it, I said, "What happened to the gentleman that did it last year? He was a kind of a famous New York City guy." And he said he fainted the year before. I was like, "Okay, I better drink a lot of water." You sit up there and you literally say 600 names, and New York City is the most diverse city in the world.
Wow.
So I practice, and that you probably don't know this, but I practiced for weeks every name to make sure I pronounce it right, because I'm really big on making sure I pronounce people's names right, or I don't say them because I'm afraid I'm going to insult them. So it was a gig of all my gigs. I still remember that gig. It was fun. I still have the really big, heavy thing that you guys gave me. It's the heaviest trophy I have.
Crystal, yes. Well, the names are important, Anthony. You got that right. I mean, I don't know if Jim Ryan fainted because of the names or other factors, but yes, it was a tough year.
And the association is really the critical linchpin to the industry in New York City. For many different reasons, when you're confused about a subject, about a contract issue, about how to go about something. They're always there. I've always found them very responsive. And Nikki, who's the VP over there, who literally, when I was a young manager, not knowing which way was up, I would always just call her. She was always attentive. She was always very, very nice. And I think she, like, even back then, before I was on TV, I think she kind of nicknamed the crazy little guy.
Well, that's a great point, Anthony. Well, look, just the other day, a couple of weeks ago, a hotel that's about to open up asked us, what do we put on the back of the doors in terms of rates? What do we put in terms of, charts about fire exits, etc.? So guess what? We told them about New York business law and what applies over there to the hotel. So it's a range of issues from FDNY, NYPD to whatever. So that's a great point.
I got a question for you on that back of the hotel door thing. How does that work? And what's the rules behind that? Because for those of you who don't know, you look at the back door, there's all sorts of fine print, but it also says a lot of times in jurisdictions what the maximum rack rate is for a room. Why is that necessary? How does that work? And I always loved, like, when you're paying $100 for a room, not that we do that anymore, and it would say the rack rate was like $850,
Well, why is it necessary? I mean, look, there was a time when people, maybe there still is occasionally, when people just jack up the rates by 500% because you got a snowstorm and you're in Buffalo and nobody can get out, right? And so, but it's a range. So obviously you want to put the outermost limit of the range, which most hotels never get to.
Right, the Taylor Swift is playing next door range.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, right. That is absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Yeah,
that was funny, Glenn. I got to give you that. But it's exactly true. Right. And I was in a hotel not too long ago, and it was like a decent hotel, and the rates are like $300, and the highest rate was $2,500, and it was like I think they were considering Taylor Swift. I think exactly that.
Yeah. So Vijay, how is the state of New York hospitality and the hotel business currently today?
Well, if you're an operating hotel, particularly in the upper scale segment, you're doing great. I mean, you're doing like times that never happened like these ever before, right? That's great. So why is that? It's that way because we've got almost 13,000 rooms that are catering exclusively the migrant business, meaning they're 100% sold to the migrant people day in and day out. What's the horizon on that? I don't know the answer to that.
Hold on one second on that. Just to clarify to the audience, because of the influx of migrants, and so many have come to New York City, the city has been taking over hotels and putting them in there. I think one notable example is the Roosevelt Hotel, for example. Is that correct, Vijay?
That's totally correct. But taking over, it's all voluntary. Let me stress. Any hotel that's
take over in terms of selling it out to this group of people as opposed to regular travelers being displaced without their choice.
Absolutely correct, Glenn. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that said, you got compression, as you all know all too well what that means. 13,000 out of 118,000, 120,000, depending on which month you're in. Total room inventory, you're looking at, really almost 20%. If you add another 7,000, that still remain closed for different reasons. So if you're one of those that are open and catering to the transient business, times couldn't be better. But we are a gateway city, Glenn. So we often compare ourselves to Paris, London, etc., which of course are having a rollicking good time with all of us going over there, and those guys not coming over here as much, right? And so those guys are up at stratospheric levels compared to us. We are up marginally, but that's kind of misleading because of the two caveats that I just said.
Right.
Yeah, and and what I love is the way you talk about the migrant housing. It's beneficial, obviously, for the people coming to our city, and it's beneficial to the owners that maybe had been struggling or maybe need that occupancy, and it's real money. So, and it's not doing what other cities are doing. It's really doing it in the right way and taking care of people the right way.
Right. And if you remember our friend George Nitton over at the Marriott Marquis during the COVID crisis managed to make a deal with government that basically saved that hotel because of the occupancy that they were able to get. But Vijay, it's interesting how that it's actually really helping New York City, because one of the problems we had in New York City pre-COVID was New York City is so attractive that there was a large oversupply, and a lot of hoteliers were having trouble in the city pushing rates in order to be that. But when you remove such a large portion of rooms from the day-to-day fight, that probably helps every single hotelier.
So how many in the last 10 years before COVID, 10 years before COVID, How many rooms did we put in? Was it 30,000 rooms? How many rooms came on in 10 years?
Over 40,000, Anthony. But can I just go back a quick second to what Glenn raised?
Yes,
So,
sir.
you know, they're obviously happy because of, you saw this compression that I already mentioned. But let's remember also that during COVID and even after that, we had close to 50,000 listings from short-term rentals. And so obviously there's a new law. I don't know if you want to talk about that or not. But
Yes, yes.
yeah, and what that meant for our industry, despite what anybody else says in the short-term rental business, they were absolutely taking away our businesses because, as Anthony, you and I were operating hotels way back when, and we used to have 100 compression days. And whereas after the STRs came to the market, roughly 2010 onwards, the compression days just went out of the window.
Right. So what Vijay is talking about here right now, so people understand, is New York City recently put through new legislation that prevents companies such as Airbnb and other of those style accommodations from being legal in New York City jurisdiction. So people that used to rent out apartments and stuff like that, they can no longer do that except for some very, very, very difficult and specific rules. Vijay, please continue.
Well, absolutely. I mean, so as I said, they had even the height of COVID when we had no business at all other than the shelter business.
Yes.
These guys were thriving. So this new law really is, works its way around what's called Section 230 CDA, which is a federal law that protects platforms essentially. So I don't want to get into the weeds of that, but Airbnb and others would say, hey, you know what, we're just a platform. We don't know who's violating what. It's up to them. And the other guys were the scofflaws, not us. So this gets around that in a legal way. And so that's why we've had these listings drop off.
And organizations such as the American Hotel and Lodging Association and all these political organizations in hospitality have been really fighting for what we call a level playing field. And one of the issues that hoteliers had is folks that are doing these out of apartment buildings or whatever don't have to follow the same strict rules that hoteliers have to follow, like labor laws necessarily and fire safety codes and other things as well that really changes the market dynamics.
Well, yeah, and there's also financial arbitrage, right? I mean, when you get a mortgage for a house, the rates are significantly better than that for a hotel, right?
Right.
And also
you got a lot of locals who can't afford to live there anymore because rents are artificially high.
Exactly. I mean, the list goes on, Glenn. I mean, you've also got construction differences between a hotel and that of an apartment. So it's a pretty extensive list. It's total arbitrage, financial, regulatory, construction, you pick it. And so that's why you could gain so much on rate when you were eating off our business, basically.
So are you seeing an immediate benefit now with hotels in New York City since this has changed?
Well, immediate, no, because firstly, the rules started getting implemented only on September 5th. We will see a difference. But obviously, as you said earlier, there are still a lot of rooms coming into the city. So this occupancy is still trailing 2019, believe it or not, in New York City.
Wow.
Yes.
But the rate's still healthy?
Rates are very healthy, Anthony. Rates are considerably higher, particularly in the upper scale market. But yeah, obviously occupancy is not there, which is why all these hotels are voluntarily getting into the migrant business, no doubt helping the city. But if they had regular transient business, you can be sure most of them, if not all, would be doing that, not the migrant business.
Yeah, absolutely. And the association, I want to go back to how important the association is. Obviously with passing this legislation, you were very important. And what's happening in California with the bill they're trying to pass there, I mean, when they try to pass bills like that.
The bill that you're referring to is putting homeless people into transient hotels and requiring hoteliers to call in at something like 2 p.m. to say how many rooms they have open, and then placing folks that might have mental illness or other issues in amongst paying customers. Anthony, continue.
Right. And the reason that's bad for everyone, right? That's bad for the homeless population because they're not getting what they really need. They're not getting the resources they really need. It's not good for business people that are traveling because you don't want to be in an environment where you really don't feel safe. When you're going home, when you go to a hotel, I always call it you're going home. So when I'm going home, I want to feel that everything is safe. Mm-hmm. When you're in a situation like that, you're going to basically close LA. If that legislation passes, which I can't imagine it does, because I don't think anybody really for it, even everybody I talk to. But if that passes, that puts cities out of business. So my point being, associations like yours are critically important to the vitality of our business.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we look at it from the business angle and what it does for taxes. You said rightly, LA is going to be out of business. What are they going to do for taxes? People already, even if a migrant hotel like we got right now here, if it caters partially to them and partially to transient, we're trying to get asked questions. Do you guys have migrants in your hotel? Because they don't want to stay in a hotel where you've got, because it's an unpredictable quantity, right? So, and with homeless, it's the same situation. And you're right. I mean, look, it does poorly by the homeless themselves because they don't have the support services in a hotel. A hotel room is by definition constrictive in so many senses of that word.
Yeah. So
a lot of times we need to get these people, mental health support and all sorts of other things that some major cities aren't focused enough on, in my opinion. But I want to talk more about the state of the hospitality business. One of the cool things is you're not only looking out for owners and operators, you're also looking out for folks that are working in hotels every day, because I think you kind of see it all as a virtuous circle for helping the city be more successful. How are you helping work with other organizations in New York City to make sure that workers are appreciated?
Well, one of the biggest things we ever do, just finished yesterday, is the Big Apple Stars event, where we get enthusiasm of the kind that you get in a Taylor Swift concert, maybe. So,
tell us a little bit about that, because producer Dave, I've never been there. Producer Dave was telling me about this, and it sounds like everybody is like it's a giant party, not just the events I go to where everyone's like, "Oh yay," but like really everyone going "yeah" and having lots of real fun.
Yeah, the enthusiasm is beyond infectious, Glenn. I mean, these guys just bring their horns, the flags, just a whole range of drums even, and they do a gig out there, literally. And it's just, they take over the whole ballroom. It's not a ballroom, it's a huge meeting room kind of thing at Javits. And it's filled to the rafters, and, really you got a fantastic spirit that's infectious.
And people have their heads down all year long, right? They're working their butts off. The hotel's busy. They're getting home to their families. They're being great parents. They're supporting their parents. They're supporting their children, and they're working really hard. So this is a moment for them to really just blow off steam and be recognized for how they work, especially in the back of the house where a lot of people, housekeepers and people in the kitchen, aren't recognized. Front desk people are recognized a lot. Concierges are recognized, but those people in the back of the house really aren't recognized. So this is a really great way of recognizing them and letting them know that they're seen. And and one of the things, when you go into New York, and I'll be as politically correct as I can. When you go to New York and you run a hotel, and in that environment, sometimes it goes between us and them, meaning managers and owners, and then the staffing because of the union, and everybody's separate. When I run hotels, everybody's together. You give me 6 weeks and everybody's together in 6 weeks, because at the end of the day, when we make a mistake, we say we're sorry. When they make a mistake, we show them where they made the mistake, and we work as a team, as a family. And that's what this industry is about. This industry isn't about wins and losses. This industry isn't about we want to make as much money off the backs of people. This industry is about bringing people to our city, showing the beauty of our city, taking care and giving a living wage to the employees that work for us, and treating them with respect and having fun. I always say, if I'm not having fun, I can't work there. And I said it before, and you'll hear it for the first time. And I make this promise to Glenn for the last year, I think. I will be back in New York City running a hotel. Maybe this year, maybe next year, maybe 10 years.
It's going to be the big bang end to his career.
100%. It may be this year, maybe next year, maybe in a couple of years. But I'm going to drop the mic in a hotel in New York City. It's going to end my career. My wife and I are going to retire, and that's it. And but if I don't run a hotel in New York City again, I don't think I'll be able to rest in peace when I kick the bucket. So I'll be back at some place.
Oh, well, good to warn all of the New York hospitality.
oh yeah, definitely. Warn's a good way of putting it.
Well, couldn't have put it better, Anthony. Well, look, the general and the general manager is like a general in the army. You're only as good as your soldiers, right? And if the soldiers are not well fed, the army doesn't move forward. So that's really hugely important.
Speaking of getting all the troops together, how are you seeing people's interest in entering hospitality in your region?
Well, that's a good question, Glenn. It's there's the interest got to be quite candid. It's not as strong as it used to be pre-COVID. So I think the messaging needs to be a little stronger. It's partly to do with the fact that we have low unemployment, and so it's a very attractive. Listen, it's the only industry where you could start as in kitchen stewarding and go all the way to the very top, right? Literally, I mean, the CEO position. I don't know of any other industry where you could do that. So, and we need to get that message out more strongly. So,
yeah, and we talk about that. And if you work at a New York City hotel, you're making money. It's not like you're starting making, $12 an hour. You're making really good money, and you can go from
like exactly a bagel costs $100.
Yeah, an entry level, but it costs $100 everywhere now. But an entry level to CEOs, 100% right. Well, you probably don't know this, but we're doing a new show called Hotel All Stars, where making the cut, where we're putting people, and we just did the Breakers in Margaritaville, where we put people in a competition. It's a very sweet competition. It's nothing like trying to kill people, to show them the industry and how wonderful the industry can be. So hopefully that show will be on within the next 12 months. It's really, really getting people outside the industry that know anything about the industry. I was in Vegas talking to someone, and they were talking to me about hosts and butlers and things. And hosts and butlers in Vegas are driving Bentleys and Mercedes. And they have access to the top celebrities in the world, and they make really good money. So this is an industry that, like you said, you can go from entry level to the penthouse real quick.
Anthony, I just remember, I know you were over at the Plaza, and I don't know if it was you who shared this story or somebody else who shared this story about the valets up front, the guys that are opening the doors. Frank Sinatra came out one day, right, and said, "Hey, what's the best tip you ever got?" And the guy told him, so he gave him like $100, and this is in 1980s dollars. He goes, "Who was the other guy?" He goes, "That was you, Mr. Sinatra."
If you go to the Plaza Hotel and you see the Bellman and Dorman that mostly I hired in 1990, right before Home Alone 2 shot there,
right?
And they were going to law school, they were going to medical school, they were going to be lawyers, they were going to be teachers, and they're all still there. And they're all still there because they have several houses with several cars, and they do really, really well. I will tell you, it is tougher now in the Bellman, Dorman positions because of Uber. It's a little bit tougher, but listen, New York hospitality is a great place. I'm the only 7-year-old, I always say, that wanted to be a general manager, and I've not lost that enthusiasm.
Yeah. That's interesting, though, because what Anthony's talking about is general manager is not necessarily the highest paid position in the hotel either. There's a lot of other places where you can make a lot more money. Vijay,
try banquet waiter, right? So banquet captain.
I'll just say I was an asset management company in New York City running a very big hotel, and I was looking at the payroll at the end of the year, just going through everything, doing cash flows and stuff. And I'm looking at the banquet captains, okay, and what the banquet captains. This is on the books, right? Not the money maybe that people give them in an envelope that nobody sees. And it was $75,000 more than the general manager made.
No, not shocking at all. Not shocking at all.
Yeah, so, but listen, your job in a hotel now. Right.
Yeah.
Vijay, New York is in the middle of implementing these cameras in order to charge people for driving into the city. It's been very successful for traffic in London and good for the environment and stuff like that. But do you, as an association, have an opinion on how that's going to affect the mix of business at all?
Good question.
Well, look, it's a mixed reaction, right? And generally, the hotels are not supportive of it because you've got the tour operators who come in buses and coaches who bring in guests, and so are they going to be subject to that? So the rules are still being figured. The rules they still haven't decided what's going to be charged when. There's a weekend rate, there's a weekday rate. So what we do know is it's going to happen. I think they'll go through iterations when they finally do introduce it, and so it's going to have exemptions and waivers that we're going to ask for employees who come in from afar who do need to drive for whatever reason. To, obviously, like I said, motor coaches and others. So this is something that needs to be done in a measured way. And I think that's how it will get done.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the dynamics play out, and if that's going to wind up making the city more money or costing them more money. Because me, as a potential customer coming into New York, I don't feel like I want to be running into New York City to record a live episode of No Vacancy if I have to pay all that money for parking, all that money for tolls, and then another 20, 30 bucks on top of that.
That's literally usually $50 to $60 in parking, $20 in that, and then tolls is $10.
Yeah.
So that's $80 just to go into the city. That's obscene.
Yeah, but as Glenn, as you said, it has worked in London. I was there about 2 months ago, and I've actually talked to the hotel owner hotel manager that I was staying at, and so he said it hasn't affected them. So I don't know if they have exemptions there. To be quite honest, I'm not knowledgeable about that.
Yeah, no, and nor should you need to be. Not only it's a different city, it's a different country entirely. So that's for sure. So other than what we've spoken about today, what are the issues that are most important to you that you're focused on in your position today?
Wow. Okay. Well, look, we have a sort of a uneven playing field that we addressed in the short-term rental issue.
Yep.
I think the biggest thing is cost, as we just talked with regard to congestion pricing. So New York City, while you all pointed out, the rates are high, parking expenses are high. It also has the highest real estate taxes in the country, where our occupancy tax and sales tax is not the highest. Yeah. By the time you look at your hotel bill when you walked out, it just blows your mind, right? And particularly if you're paying for it yourself, as is the case in most cases now, business travel still hasn't come back. So then obviously we are pricing ourselves out in certain conventions markets as well as conference markets. So what we're trying to push for is some relief on the real property taxes, because the thinking is these guys are from out of town, let's sock it to them, right? I mean, this is an age-old aphorism that is not true. But also the occupancy tax presents a problem for, whether it's a toy fair or some other thing. When you bunch it all up together, you say, should I have that here or Orlando or even outside the country? So that's a problem that we look to address.
Vijay, I think you specifically mentioned the toy fair because they were going to leave New York City, but then they had I don't know exactly the specifics, but last minute they decided not to. So that's probably a good example of what you're talking about, right?
Well, exactly, because and this is those that we know of. We don't know those that just looked at it. For instance, the DNC convention was supposed to be here. They told us pointedly we're too expensive.
Right.
So, I mean,
the Democratic National Committee convention in summer 2024. Yeah. Correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, there are other smaller events that, definitely are going elsewhere for a variety of reasons, but not the least of which is the hotel bill. So,
yeah. That's interesting because you really are competing against all these other jurisdictions, particularly against Orlando and Las Vegas, Las Vegas has become the place that everybody seems to want to be these days. So you've got to try to get that business back, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, our city is hugely innovative, very attractive from a variety of reasons. Las Vegas, I don't want to knock Las Vegas. It's not a one-trick pony show. Obviously, it's got a lot of diversity, but we have diversity of a different kind. And I think it's just, you see that in the world that you catch when you walk the streets and the new attractions that keep coming up. We got Little Island, for instance, that just came up about 2 years ago. And then we got new attractions like this bus that goes around town serving tea tea and muffins, like almost English style, and it's actually pretty cute. Yeah, and so
I saw that. It's pretty cool.
So you've got new attractions. People are innovative here, and it's not just technology. So I think we need to make it affordable as well. So let me mention on that note one thing. We kind of shot ourselves in the foot in 2010 when the city, for whatever, in its own wisdom, passed a law that essentially bans youth hostels. So youth hostels that are there today are 2, and they're grandfathered. So when we compete with these other gateway cities that I mentioned in the beginning, we don't have youth hostels. So guess who was the cheerleader for this law? It was Airbnb and the short-term rental guys, because when you didn't have a youth hostel, 5 kids got together and stayed in a home, whether it's legal or not. So
that's interesting.
And one of the things about New York, and this is the thing that it frustrates me a little bit, is you have the greatest little towns in New York City that nobody sees. They go to Manhattan still. I go to Manhattan, I'm still excited. But you have Rockaway in Queens that you take the shuttle from downtown. Rockaway is 7 million people went there last year. Okay, you go to Sheepshead Bay. You go to different places in Queens, different places in Harlem. There's so many unbelievable attractions in New York City, and every town feels like you're in a different state or a different country. You don't feel like you're in New York City. You feel like you're in a different environment. And that you can literally take the train and feel like you're in 10 different countries in a day. And one of the things that I just would love to see is our city kind of market that. We kind of stay in, which is great. You can stay in Manhattan, but there are some other great places to visit while you're there. And you don't have to stay there. You can go in on the train, come back, and just experience something that you've never experienced before.
Couldn't agree with you more, Anthony. And, even individual boroughs point to that. Brooklyn has such diversity. You really think within Brooklyn, you're going to different countries. So absolutely.
Yeah, it's I grew up in Brooklyn. I'm in Brooklyn all the time. And you still, you go to Coney Island, you go to Bensonhurst, you go to, and again, Rockaway, what blows my mind is Rockaway Ferry is right downtown, right down near the seaport. You take I think, what is it now? $4. You take a ferry ride, which in any other city is $100. You take an hour-long, beautiful tour of Manhattan all the way down to Rockaway. You get off the ferry. You walk a block to the beach. There's a beautiful Rockaway hotel. You look at the beaches. You go to the boardwalk. You do all this beautiful stuff. You get back on the ferry, and you go back to New York, and it maybe takes 6 hours, and you have a beautiful day. So New York, 100% is so much different than Vegas. I love Vegas as much as anyone, but it's a one-trick pony, and it has beautiful venues. But New York City is just an incredibly vibrant community.
Oh, look at that. Nice job, Dave. That's if you guys are listening to it, he put up the New York Ferry route map.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Not only look at all the ferries that go to all the little places.
Yep.
You can go everywhere. It's like a bus. You can go everywhere, and it's very, very affordable. Right. I mean, I went to Boston Harbor recently, and I took a little boat around the harbor, and it cost us $75 each. I mean, This was $4. I went back and forth, and it was unbelievable.
Totally. There are ones in New York City that do all of that for that kind of pricing. But when you could pay what it is to ride the subway to go on one of those things, that's pretty cool. Vijay, we're talking about all these things that are helping make New York City, original and different. And the next big thing that's going to happen is definitely some sort of casino resort project in Manhattan.
That was my next question.
Potentially on Long Island, et cetera, et cetera. How are you thinking about that? And what do you think it's going to do to the hospitality environment in New York?
Well, let's back up a quick second. I mean, look, there are 3 licenses that are going to be given for full table gambling, if you will. And so
specifically downstate licenses, meaning like Westchester, New York City, and probably Nassau Coliseum.
Right. I mean, so you're going to see 2 of them go. This is a conventional thinking that I think is pretty sound in its premise, that one's going to go to in JFK to the Resorts World, and the other is going to go to Yonkers. So it's a third one that's highly not contentious so much as a lot of people contending for it. So you got from Willets Point to Coney Island to Manhattan, obviously. There are, I think, 4 contenders for Manhattan itself. Yep. So it's in December is when they're going to start opening these bids, if you will. Mm-hmm. So we don't think there's going to be a decision till April or even June of next year. And it's possible that, it does. I mean, I simply can't predict, but it's possible that you don't get any in Manhattan. There's a
possible, but I think highly unlikely.
But
yes. Well,
and there's some land that's owned by those real estate companies we're talking about, those casinos in Manhattan, in preparation for this. And there's one resort I won't say that I'm a little bit I hope they get.
It's all you're right, and it's all over from the United Nations to Midtown Manhattan to even downtown. So you're right.
One big plan on the west side as well. Yeah. But outside New York City, I'm pretty convinced that Sands is going to do a deal for Nassau County, where the former Nassau Coliseum is.
Yes.
I think that one's going to be a done deal. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in New York.
Yes, very, very interesting. Yep.
As much as I can't wait, I really don't want it to come because, as Glenn knows, I play poker and I play in $200 tournaments. So that means I can go often because it's only $200, right? My wife won't yell at me. So if there's one at Resorts World, which is really close to my house, You will probably see me there.
They don't have poker currently at that
No,
resort?
they just have video poker, and I'd rather play polo on a horse than video poker.
Right. Okay. Right. So yeah, there's different rules in different jurisdictions about how gaming works. Just so everybody knows, Class A gaming, I think it's called a Class 1, is like what you see in Vegas. New York State has been they're not actually slot machines technically. They're called video lottery terminals. They're essentially the same thing, but instead of the random number generator being inside the machine specifically, I believe it's got to go all the way up to Albany and then come all the way back. It's in like some central warehouse or something.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, the VLTs. Yeah, they were talking about expanding the VLTs. Yeah,
in Florida, they used to be bingo machines that just had the visualization of a slot machine. It's all semantics.
And how does that work with the association? I would imagine all the people bidding are coming to you for advice. Is that?
Well, a few have come to us for endorsements, and obviously we cannot endorse one or the other. But look, at the end of the day, almost all of them, bar one, has got a hotel component. So obviously that's going to be good for our membership.
Yeah. Excellent. I can't wait to see what's going to happen with that. Vijay, is there anything that we missed today?
I think you covered it all. Big city, but we covered a lot of topics. Yeah, I think it's good. I mean, look, I'll just say this. I mean, look, we're looking for a comeback. We're not back where we were in 2019. We think it'll be by the end of next year, at the very latest, early 25. So I think the city is going to be fully on the rebound by then.
And listen, as a born, raised, and live in New York person, I love New York more today than I did yesterday. So if you haven't been in New York in a while, please come to New York.
I'm into that.
I love it. Vijay Dandapani, President and CEO at the Hotel Association of New York City. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. My pleasure. Thank you.
And we really appreciate you guys supporting us every single day. And if you want to give us a little love, make sure you follow us on wherever you want to go. Download our shows wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can find us online at Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and of course at novacancynews.com. He's at Anthony Hotels. I'm at Traveling Glenn. I'm no longer on X, but nobody seems to care. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm on there, but I don't do anything on there. Yeah. So, Glenn, the card that's held up at the end of the show, are those your hands?
Are these? No. I wanted to be a hand model growing up. Thanks for breaking up a sore point, but I was told I was too knuckly, so my dream was ruined. So thanks.
You should be a keynote speaker and a moderator. You're pretty quick.
Yeah, from your lips to God's ears. Maybe one day somebody will.
I got to ask you a question. Yeah. Okay. In all the beds that you've slept in the last 100,000 years, what is there one bed that stands out and says, "Wow, that was really comfortable"?
There are certain beds that stand out, but let's do a little bit more recent. Just last week, when I was at the opening of the Spark by Hilton in Mystic, Connecticut, it's the first ever of those brands. Brand new bed. For a company that's claiming it's an upper economy hotel, the bed was fantastic, and I had the best night's sleep I had had in months.
Really?
Yeah.
And it seems to me that in all the hotels I've been in the last couple of years, they're all comfortable. Yeah. I can't tell you the last time I had an uncomfortable bed. The real differentiator is the pillows. There's sometimes pillows that are just ridiculous.
These pillows rock for me. I love the softer pillows, but I'm also happy when they have one that's a little bit more firm and a little bit softer. When you get those two big, thick, firm ones, they're impossible to utilize and get a good night's sleep. Don't do that. You're not really saving any money.
There was one hotel that had two big square pillows. I mean, square, like they were like 3 feet by 3 feet, right. And I loved them. Yeah, I absolutely. I'm a pillow. I sleep with 5 pillows, so I'm a pillow guy.
Yeah, me too. I'm like a pillow clutcher as well. It's the only time I feel secure in my life. All right, everybody.
So wait. Let's play a game real quick before you. I know you got to go somewhere. You're always going somewhere. And we have a 12 o'clock today, right?
We have a live show at 12, but for you watching this, it's irrelevant because we don't have a live show when we're running this.
Okay. Okay. Whatever you just said.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite amenity when you go into a hotel room?
My favorite amenity.
What's the one thing you can't live without?
Free bottles of water.
Thank you. That's my favorite. If I walk in, there's not a free bottle of water, I'm freaking out.
It also pisses me off when I'm in like a desert environment and they don't have water everywhere. for example.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, and if you don't want to put it in the rooms because you feel like it's, you know, it's very labor intensive, at the desk, just hand it to me.
Yeah, not only that, but Even Hotels provides a drinking vessel for everybody, and then they have machines on all their floors to go and fill it up with filtered water.
You are the brand expert. You know everything about everything.
Well, VJ knows everything about everything. I want to thank everybody for watching today. And remember, everyone, you've got one life, so blaze on and
Be kind to yourself.
see you